Thank you to join to these conversations. And it will, yeah, it is great to have you here. But now that you are now about to open an exhibition in Bogota, and actually curated by Santiago Rueda, who is a photography curator.
Yeah, I feel very, very fortunate uh, to have been invited by the Colombo to have this exhibition. It was originally going to happen in 2020, and then the pandemic hit. They've sent me pictures and video of the exhibition. It opened today, so from yesterday, and it looks great. It looks so beautiful, so wonderful. I'm so grateful, and it's too bad I'm not there.
Thank you, Matt. So why don't we start, Matthew, about, how did you get involved in photography as an artist?
I studied zoology when I was in college at UC Berkeley, and I thought I was going to be a veterinarian. When I was in high school and younger, I loved animals. I wanted to be a veterinarian. But then when I was studying science, I liked it. I found it interesting, but I didn't have the passion for it that my professors had, and I worked for a veterinarian and I didn't really find it very interesting. It was kind of mundane, and I was more and more attracted to kind of creative stuff and self-expression, and photography kind of allowed me to do that. And I started shooting a bunch of pictures, borrowed cameras, and I liked it. And so during the summer, I would take photography classes and darkroom classes, and then I would go back to science during the school year. And then I liked it, and people responded well, and I just started doing it, and I didn't imagine a better alternative,
I was going to mention, that when we met in PhotoFest, one of the things that called me most attention, and I don't know if it was at the beginning of your career or something, was this issue of cowboys in San Francisco.
Yes, the first people who came here were people of the Spanish Empire who came north from Mexico, and then that led to this big ranching culture, where cowboys come from, and all the Spanish language that was incorporated into English from, la rayata became lariat, a lot of words. Vaquero became buckaroo. Anyway, my cousins had ranched there for many generations, and they were ranchers. And then when I got older, I realized, oh, this is disappearing. And I found it really interesting visually. I found it interesting culturally and visually. And I wanted to try and convey some of that. And that was the project where people responded well to the pictures I was taking. I was real passionate about it, and I felt I was on a mission. And I was doing all that darkroom. It was all film and me printing them in a darkroom, so it was very slow.
But it was because also there was lots of real estate developers. I understand that, they were like an extension, these cowboys.
Yes, that's right. That's what happened. There's more money in building homes than in raising cattle or any other kind of agriculture. So there's a lot of pressure on, it's hard to run a ranch when your neighbors are suburban homes, and then the taxes get high. And so it's been disappeared. It's more valuable the land for homes than for agriculture. And that's the basic idea.
How did you ended up going, like, I think, to South Asia or something to do projects there? Because it's more or less the same way you ended up somehow going to Colombia to do some photographic assignments or something. But tell us a little bit about the experience in South Asia.
Sure. So I first went there for a friend's wedding. An American friend married a Thai woman, and I went for the wedding and then stayed around. But I also had another very good friend from Thailand who lived in Berkeley for a while, and we became friends. And then when she moved back, for my 50th birthday, in fact, my treat was to take a vacation there. And because of her, who knows people and stuff, and she belongs to a ethnic minority group called the Karen, which is on both sides of the border in Thailand and Burma. And so she put me in touch with a Jesuit priest, in fact, who does really interesting work. He crosses the border, illegally, crossing a river, and kind of helps these villages, a lot of whom are refugees from this horrible war that the Burmese army are perpetrating on a lot of different ethnic minorities there. So I made a film about that experience, and well, a little bit about that, but it's mostly about young students from Burma who are getting a chance to get an education in Thailand, and kind of like their dreams, and that's the story I made, sort of.
Okay, now before we talk about your love letter to Colombia and No Dar Papaya.
Yeah, well, I came to Colombia because I had friends in California, and who Colombians, and so because of those friendships, I got to know more about Colombia. You know, it piqued my interest. So a Colombian friend here mentioned, you know, El Concurso Nacional de Belleza, and I looked it up, and I couldn't learn as much back then because the internet was still kind of young then. But anyway, I worked out where I was able to go, and I got a press credential and all that. And I was imagining, gosh, how in the world can you spend 19 days on a beauty contest? I wonder what they do.
Exactly. I was going to say that.
So it was just a great, fantastic, unique way to get to know Colombia. And one of the reasons that I really wanted to go, why that seemed interesting to me, wasn't a beauty contest in and of itself, because I've never even been to a beauty contest here. They're not that interesting to me. But I had read that there's a Concurso Nacional, and then there's also a Reinado Popular. Exactly. And I read about those differences and stuff, and I thought, oh, that's interesting, because then you kind of study from a point of view of like concepts of beauty, but also you know, ideas of race and class, and that seemed to, you know, it's an interesting topic for me here in the United States, and it seemed like it'd be really interesting in Colombia, and in the context of a beauty contest, seemed like it was would be a lot of fun. And I found myself really inspired and to work hard to make these pictures, and I was just responding to what, it was all new to me, you know. Yes. And I was working with a lab in Cartagena that was making little 4x6 prints, and I brought a bunch with me, and I showed them to you, and that's when you suggested, you know, we exhibit it at the Colombo the next year, which was wonderful.
Then the exhibition became like a traveling exhibition somehow, and it ended up going the next year to the Museum of Modern Art of Cartagena with Eduardo Hernandez.
I shot the pictures in 2003, and then I was invited by you to come to Colombia to exhibit in Medellín and teach a workshop there. But before that, I went to Manizales and taught a workshop at La Universidad de Caldas through the Colombo de Manizales with Clara.
Yes.
So then Manizales, I went to Medellín, and there was the opening there, and it was wonderful. Everybody liked it. Nobody had anything negative to say. It was great, because the pictures from Royal Colombia, they're not critical. You know, it shows the fun, it shows the beauty, and it's not just pictures of beauty queens. It's a lot of the people in, you know, the public, because that was really interesting to me. And so I anticipated it was going to be like a dream come true. I was going to share this work in Cartagena, where I actually took the pictures, and I was very naive, and I thought, oh, some of these people in the pictures, humble people, let's say, you know, they might come to the exhibition and see themselves exalted in these beautiful prints, and that's what I was thinking, and that's not at all what happened. Because the owner of the beauty contest had heard about some, I don't know, he got some concept about the exhibition that he felt that they needed to take legal action against me or something, and it was really strange. So he sent out some kind of memo, a memo to the press, saying there's an exhibition at the Museo de Arte Moderno de Cartagena, and if you cover it, we may revoke your press credential to cover the concurso. So my dream of like sharing this with the Colombian public didn't come to pass. And what was surprising to me was the year before, I got, you know, Raimundo Angulo would say to other like journalists, bueno, este vino de San Francisco a cubrir el concurso. Habla con él. You know, I was like, you know, they liked me. And I got along with all the medios. I knew people from RCN and Caracol because you saw each other every day and people were friendly. So then I thought with my exhibition, there'd be a lot of coverage, but there wasn't because Raimundo decided that, you know, I think he just exhibited a great deal of ignorance, thinking I was trying to make money when you don't make money from an exhibition like that. And I remember Tato Gomez,
Yes,
the photographer.
exactly.
Remember him?
Yes.
Anyway, so he called me when I was in Cartagena. He said, "Hey, how's it going?" And I told him what happened. And he said to me, es que te dije, todo acá es una mafia. And I don't belong to the mafia de belleza. So you're out, bro. You're out.
Yeah. Anyway.
Mhm. But have the owner of the contest. I mean, what was his reason? What do you think? What was his reason for?
Well, I think he thought that someone was making money off of his contest, and you can't make money off of my contest. He said it's an exhibition no autorizada, and it's like, well, it's not up to you to authorize exhibitions of my photography, you know.
Yeah.
As a result of that experience, I started asking around to other people. I go, what's up with this? And then I started to hear a lot of the reality about El Concurso and about Raimundo, you know, and I had a more cynical look. The photos don't show any cynicism. The photos are all celebratory. But then that following year, I got a more realistic look at some of the aspects of the exploitation and the fachada. All that's, I came away with the feeling that all that stuff about obras sociales is just a fachada for a negocio that exploits the contestants.
Yeah, no, but
Yeah.
great to know your perception. Let's talk about No Dar Papaya.
Well, sure. The first some pictures in the book I took on my very first visit to Colombia in 2003. I was shooting the beauty contest with 35 millimeter film, but I just had this idea. I loved that Polaroid camera. I never used it on a project. I just take a few pictures of family and friends, and I always liked it. I always liked the look. And so I thought, you know, Colombia, it seems, before I'd been, it seems kind of like colorful and tropical. Maybe I could do something with this Polaroid. And I made a few pictures, including of some beauty queens. A couple of them of beauty queen pictures are in the book, and a few more. And then when I came back the following year, I thought to myself, you know what? Maybe I can do a project with this Polaroid. It's kind of interesting. I was kind of tired of doing 35 millimeter work, and Polaroid represented a different way of working. You have to be a lot more deliberate. You know, you don't take a lot of pictures because the film's expensive, and because it comes out of the camera, it changes the dynamic. And so I like that idea. And I thought, well, instead of like some intensive kind of documentary thing about this part or that part of Colombia, let me just kind of have a more diffuse kind of impressionistic kind of thing where I can go around and I don't have any parameters. So I worked on that project for 11 years. So my use of the medium kind of evolved. I realized, you know, using landscapes more. And then also my understanding of Colombia evolved too.
Exactly. Yes.
And that's reflected in the pictures too. And what's also reflected is people I know. Some people in the photos I know or I knew, you know, like the students from CEFA, for example, there were some CEFA students. So of course I knew them. Some of my students from La Universidad de Antioquia are in one of the pictures, and some friends are in other pictures. And a lot of photography, or at least the way I do photography, is has to do with rapport with the people you're photographing. And so I, of course, I have rapport with people I already know and I'm friends with, but like people I would just meet maybe in Colombia because I'd see them doing something that would be intriguing, or the whole scene would be intriguing. And I thought, gosh, I'd like to make a photo. So, you know, I would just talk to people from, say, humble classes. They appreciate that I'm not clasista. You know what I mean? They appreciate that I'll talk and have I'll be interested in what they do or what they have to say. and they recognized me wanting to take a picture of them as sort of honoring them, you know, that they're worthy of a picture, you know. And I wonder if, plus my accent, I wonder if that has something to do with how people respond to me too, you know.
Yes, yeah. And something interesting that you mentioned is like every house that you went, and you know they always have a mixer, you know, and they offer you juice, you know, like we have fruit everywhere and juice everywhere, and finally you found out from where the lulo grows.
Yeah, yeah.
Expand on that.
Lulo is a gift from God. It's this great fruit that nobody in the United States has ever heard of. So I love this juice. I drink it anywhere I could. And but I had no, and I'd seen it, I'd bought it many times in markets, but I didn't know how it grew. And then one day I was in Salento, and I was just walking around, and I saw this tiny little plot of land with, and I saw lulo growing on a tree. So I had my Polaroid, of course. So I had to try and figure out a way to. That's my homenaje a lulo, my homage to lulo. Yeah.
Yeah. How about going to La Guajira? That must have been very, you know, they were telling you to like, don't go, it's too
Yes.
dangerous and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And then somehow you managed to be in contact with people and capture
Yes.
the humanness of them.
Yes, there. I found, you know, I wasn't, to tell you the truth, La Guajira, I'd heard about it and it seemed dry in a desert, and that just didn't seem that interesting to me, you know. But a friend had suggested it, and then I found myself in Santa Marta for Christmas and New Year's, and I loved it. It's such a beautiful landscape, and you see the difficult circumstances that a lot of those children live in, and it makes your heart sink, you know. Yeah.
Yes. Uh, there is also some lovely pictures of students of in relation to like, you know, you mentioned that Colombians are very creative, and a fact that you say is that when you were teaching at the Sena, there was
Cepa.
a Cefa, sorry, there was a contest, a fashion contest. Tell us about
Yeah.
that, Matt.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I noticed it. I noticed it like there'd be street parades too, and you'd see a lot of people on stilts, and they made these really interesting costumes and stuff, and they danced so beautifully and so skillfully, and you know they put a lot of work into that because they're all dancing in unison, you know. And I kind of realized, wow, there's an appreciation here for that sort of. For art is just self-expression. No one's making a career out of that. This is just kind of who they are. You know, they're putting effort into this because it matters.
Great, great. Okay. You say that those images in that letter to Colombia, No Dar Papaya, it says that, you know, that so that one day we will learn to live in peace, Colombians. And I think, you know, as we revise your photographs and we see, you know, the wonderful people that Colombians are, and the creativity to sort of eventually one day we can live in peace. I think it would be worth, you know, your effort of your letter to Colombia.
Thank you. Well, one thing that I found interesting was Santiago, the curator in Bogota who put this show together. He talked about it in terms of like, because you know I'm a foreigner, but so it's interesting to me to see how Colombians might regard this work. And I shot it now. Some of the pictures, 2003. That's almost 20 years ago. The first ones, of course, the later ones are more like 10 years ago. And I think he kind of sees it too as like kind of a, at least when we originally talked about it. Since then, so many horrible things have happened, but kind of as like kind of a celebration of Colombians and the beauty of it after moving through this difficult period. But to be honest with you, sometimes I read articles and see videos about some of the stuff happening in Colombia.
It's a great question to ask him, to ask Santiago Rueda what he thinks about his opinion of your work before that you were celebrating the aftermath or the after peace agreement. Now we
Yeah.
have this again, like, I mean, it's very visible, the violence again. But I mean, as you were saying, like someday we are going to live in peace. I think it's going to be, I mean, it is very easy for Colombians to learn how to live in peace. The thing is that, I mean, it takes time. It takes time. It takes generations to adapt to a new way of thinking.
And still, we are the happiest ones in the world. Just rounded up this talk, Matt. You know, how did you define about this no dar papaya, the term?
No Dar Papaya means don't show any vulnerabilities or any openings for anyone to take advantage of you. And that could be physically so they don't rob you, but it could also be so they don't take advantage of you in other ways, you know. And it's good for people to know that.
Good. No, I think that I'm glad that the title of your exhibition and your publication, it calls the attention to many.
And it describes kind of the reality of Colombia too. I mean, honestly, if you dust papaya, well, how does it go? Papaya dejadas, papaya partida, or something like that, right?
Oh, I want to thank you, Matt, for your time and your dedication, and we look forward for your next visit to Colombia.
Thank you, Juan Alberto. And I want to thank you for all your support and encouragement over the years and opportunities. And thank you, Alejandro, for filming this and making this into what it's going to be.